Welcome to Leasspell, the Word Write Guild. We're a group of authors and editors who got together so that we could encourage each other to write and help improve our writing. I guess it was last year in October, we had something very exciting happen to our group. Denise and Jax both entered a contest with Assent Publishing, the Phantasm imprint for fantasy, and out of 84 contestants, or 84 submissions, Denise and Jax won first and second place. So we decided at that point, it might be time to start our own blog. So that's what we're here doing. This is our first video blog. However, unfortunately, something went wrong. As I'm not a very technical person, I did a fine job of recording everyone else on Google Hangouts, but Denise and I, who were at my house, unfortunately didn't have the sound recorded for our voices. So we've gotten together and we've tried to re-record the things that we said. Fortunately, we both had notes, but it might look a little strange and it might not be quite as interactive, and I just wanted to get that out in the open. From this point forward, I am going to try to recreate what we did on that day. So let's get the video blog rolling. Okay, so why don't we start out with everyone telling us a little bit about themselves. Tell us what you've got published and what you're working on. I think we'll go in alphabetical order by first name. Carolyn, that means you're up.
I'm Carolyn Hill. I have 3 self-published manuscripts: Bede's Pickle, Liminal Eyes and Other Unsettling Tales, and Skin Deep's the latest one.
Hi, I'm Denise Robach-Tanaka, and I'm the author of a book that's coming out later this year after Jax's. The title is called Touch, which wasn't the original title, but that's what the editor wants to call it now. I also have a couple published short stories and a self-published book on Amazon.
What was it originally? What was the name you'd originally given it?
I'm terrible at titles. It was originally called What Gods Fear. And now it's not. Yeah, my book is an epic fantasy. It's set in another world. And the concept is that there was a magical chime sound that went out and cursed everyone in the valley, so no one can touch. And it's up to the hero and the heroine to team up and go on a great perilous adventure and find the source of it and solve the problem for the world.
Hello, my name's Jason MacDonald. I know that I kind of resemble a large head compared to everybody else.
Talking head.
I'm not actually a floating head. I actually am a real person. I live in Ottawa. That's in Canada. I have one short story published in Shimmer magazine called Neighbor. Kind of too bizarre to really get into a full description of, but it's kind of quirky and pop culture-y and funny, and yeah, that's all. Yeah, let's leave it there. What am I working on now? I'm working on a novel, of course, like most of the rest of us, but it's a dark fantasy novel set in the world of Priam, and it never seems to want to finish itself. That's the big problem right now, but we're working on it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, Jason. I don't feel like I'm ever going to finish mine. So I'm Jennifer L. Carson, and I'm an editor. I'm a writer. I like to give presentations at conventions, and I enjoy teaching what I know. That's why I'm another reason I'm doing all this and in the Leaspell and stuff. Because not only is it really fun and interesting for me to learn about writing and to try and figure it all out, but it's when I work with other people, I learn how to make my own writing better, and I really feel I've come a long way in the last few years by getting out there and doing all this stuff. So I've been involved with writing pretty much since I could pick up a pen and have at it. I think I wrote my first short story before I read my first novel. what I'm doing now is I'm working on an epic fantasy called In Immortal Shadow, and it's set in the world of Endirion, and it has Phalion as the main character, and he's half human and half elf, and trying to find where he fits in the world when a somewhat disruptive influence falls into his life and changes everything, and off we go. So that's who I am and my story, and I guess it's time for Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Granger. I'm from England. At the moment, I'm not working on a book due to issues with typing, but I've been doing independent and small press reviews at my blog, lauraoflurking.blogspot.co.uk.
I am Jax. My pen name's Jax Daniels, and I live in a home in New Orleans, which is apropos since my book also takes place here in New Orleans. This is the first time I've been published, so this is very exciting for me. We're hoping to roll it out here in August of 2014. So the book is titled The Dead Man's Deal. I see it as the first part of a 5-part series, possibly longer, but at least 5. And it starts, like I said, in New Orleans with the unfortunate opening scene of a widow who lost her husband unexpectedly and inherits his New Orleans mansion, which she didn't know he had. And with it, she inherits his, we call it talents in this world, not magic. So she has to learn how to deal with this whole new world and talents and magical beings and critters in a magical house and get it all under her belt for her tournament and before somebody offs her.
Good description.
Okay, everybody, now that the introductions are over, let's get to the task at hand. So because our group does critiquing one section at a time. So we do a couple of chapters for each person over a period of time, and then we move and we rotate through. That's one reason why we're a small group. It would just take too long to get through if we had any more members to get from my turn this time to my turn next time. So, but since Jack's had that wonderful good news about winning the contract through the Phantasm Publishing, we wanted to get through her book, but we were only halfway. So we put the other projects aside and we read through to the end of her project and decided that we would have this power critique so that she had a chance to one last chance to have at her manuscript before the publishing deadline made that impossible. So with that in mind, let's move on to our first question. So the first question is, what do you like about the story? What do you like about her writing? What is it about this book that really recommends itself? So why don't we do that? Who wants to go first?
I'll say something simply because I wasn't here for the careful critique of the first 18 chapters. So when I read this book, I just read it like any other book I would normally read, and I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, and this book pleased me. It hit a lot of the buttons that are important for me. It has a strong sense of family. The settings, 2 of the settings are very striking, and one of them, the house, that mansion, is wonderful. I mean, can I say, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but it's sentient. I mean, the house has been there a long time, and I love that. And I particularly liked Hercule, the little that Winki ends up with.
I can't tell you how much strength it took for me to do that. Once I finally realized I was going to go with a cockroach, I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, I don't like cockroaches. I was horrified when with her, but then he's just charming. He's wonderful, and he reminds me a little bit of Kim Harrison's Pixie. I don't know if but that is a series that I also very much admire. So when I say that you were hitting a lot of my buttons, those buttons are embedded in that series as well. So you did a really nice job.
Thank you.
So what I liked most was there was the setting in New Orleans. It's very picturesque, and I wish we'd done a little more strolling around of it because it's a very creative city, maybe some flashbacks. And it's a fantastic place. I like the premise of a tournament in another world because, you can't go wrong with tournaments. I like the spooky antique house as being a portal to another dimension, which is also a very tried and true kind of device or trope. I was thinking of Narnia's Closet, where the kids go through the closet to somewhere, or Stephen King's The Sentinel, and also there's a book, The Spiderwick Chronicles, where there's the house and then amazing things happen there. There may be more, but I can't think of them. But definitely this book had like a fresh spin on all those kind of tried and true successful devices. And who I liked, I think as time went on, I liked Winki more and more. In the first few chapters, she was kind of rough when she was running away from spiders and screaming and freaking out at all these amazing things that were suddenly happening to her. And I liked the whole bit with her specter husband. It's very romantic, but again, subtle, so it's not like romance, but it was a romantic feeling of having the husband gone. And also that I liked that she gradually came to be in command of her team by the end. So I did like Winki a lot.
Well, let me start by saying that I haven't read a lot of young adult-related fiction. Unlike most people in the known universe, I haven't read the Harry Potter series, although I've recently caught the film, so I feel like I'm on a little better ground now. I did read Narnia, and I felt that you were keeping that tradition very well. The tradition of pulling somebody who's almost an innocent into a magical world, into a charming kind of alternate reality. And that's part of the strength of it, I think, is that your narrator, Winki, is sort of she's an old soul, but she's also an innocent at the same time, and she brings that she leads the reader in at the same time as she's being guided in. So you have that easy portal for the reader to step into that perspective. But at the same time, I like that she's constantly raising some of the issues that we might have with the universe, and in a playful way, infusing the humor into the story. I thought that was really well done. She's really, pardon my language, she's a wise ass. and that's part of the strength of the story, is that she's constantly interjecting this unique perspective into it, and not taking it terribly seriously and going, oh my god, it's like a talking cockroach. And of course, there's Hercule, who's another favorite character. He's kind of a little bit of a Jiminy Cricket kind of feel, sort of both a guardian and a guide at the same time. But I like the juxtaposition of having this traditionally creepy insect next to this rather charming kind of honorable kind of persona there. So I thought that was really, really clever. Of course, the rest of the cast is clever and well done. The house is a brilliant conceit. There's so much about it that I could go on, but I think I'll let somebody else speak.
Thank you. For me, I thought it was a really nice book. It was the kind of thing that I would have picked up on Amazon to read just for me. I particularly liked Hercule. He's cute. I like cockroaches anyway. And you had times when you left me starving with the descriptions of food, despite the fact I'd never encountered the majority of the stuff and I ended up Googling it. But I think you had very strong characters and, conversational, particularly Winki. Her personality came through very well, very easy to connect with.
Thank you.
I think Jax knows what I'm going to say. She knows just how much I really love her voice. She has just a really strong connection with the material, so that I can actually hear her reading this material or hear her speaking when I'm reading. It just comes clear as day. And I realize that not everybody will know Jax and be able to have that same response. But it's important because when I hear that, when I hear her voice coming through like that, I know she's nailed it. She's just spot on. That's exactly what she should be doing, and it just resonates beautifully. She's got a great, I think someone said she had kind of a fresh approach, and I really feel like whenever I'm hearing that, her voice coming through, that the material is strong and engaging and interesting, and I just think it's wonderful. That's one of the things you've done very well. One of the other things that I really liked, I just adored the names. The names that you did were really great. I mean, as everybody said, the cockroach Hercule Poirot, you have Smith and Wesson, and the lawyer, Mr. Marble, and all these wonderful names that you just... It just makes me laugh whenever I read them. And it wasn't done schlocky or wrong. It wasn't like you took it seriously. And I really thought it was an engaging part of the story.
The names, I have to tell you, is a little bit of a secret. I used to read Agatha Christie novels, as you can tell by Hercule Poirot. And the problem with them is they always have this huge cast of characters. And they always have English proper names, and I don't, can never keep track of who does what. And so given that I knew that I was going to have a very large staff, there was going to be a substantial cast of character, this was largely just for me to keep these people straight, because even when I'm writing, the last thing I hate doing is going, what did I name that guy? So it was a trick that then, of course, worked in well with the whole nobody really wants to know who you really are kind of thing. So it just seemed to, work very well go well with that.
The other thing I wanted to say that I liked, since we're talking about characters, as other people mentioned Hercule and stuff, I also wanted to say how much I really liked the characters across the board. I liked Jeeves, I like Mama, I like Marble, I like Frost, and even the characters that you didn't give much airtime to, they didn't bother me. I wasn't necessarily bored from like Smith and Wesson at all. They could, have more development. We can put more on that later. But I just thought that the characters that had any time at all were very much alive and very real, and I cared what happened to them. It took me a while to get involved with Winki. I mean, she had that whole, every time something went wrong, the scream and run out the door. I just, that didn't do it for me at first. But when the whole book as a scope, I can see, of course, that she needed to start somewhere and grow, and she did grow. I mean, there were times when I know that she got kind of pushed around by the people around her, and then as she went on and she got more established and more comfortable, and she started to grow as a person, she took control of her life more. And so I thought you did a very nice progression from the running and screaming out the door all the way through to the tournament. So well done.
She only had flight, and now she has fight. See, it all worked out.
Well, I also loved D.S. Frost, who comes on really strong toward the end. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to say anything about it. I mean, you tugged my heartstrings, pulled them out and stomped on them, and it was like,
oh, cool.
So I want more of him next time.
Yeah, I agree. More Frost and more Hercule Poirot, because I guess I didn't say it before. Hercule Poirot was by far my favorite character, and I like the others. I can't believe it. I like a cockroach as the character.
That is just, I'm astounded at that. I mean, I'm going to tell you, he is the hardest to write, too, because...
Mine, for me, had to be Jeeves. He seemed at the same time so out of place, but like he was a part of the house. And I also found that Malador had this way of being attractive. You're thinking, he's a bad guy, but maybe we could invite him into the family.
Yeah, I agree with Laura. I mean, Malador at first came off as this perhaps kind of like one-sided villain, but as the story progressed, like I mean that kind of slick, slimy exterior that you kind of bring out at first, kind of like gave way to a more, thoughtful villain, somebody who was calculating, who was trying to map out the opposition's responses in advance, and I enjoyed how there was infighting for the evil side, so to speak. But can I also say I really enjoyed Colonel Mustard? That's not the Clue version of Colonel Mustard, but because it was really, I was a big Clue player when I was a kid, so that was like a nice nod of the hat, and I really liked the whole Southern gentleman, and I liked that there was a ruthless side, but there was also that genteel side, so I thought that was cool.
Okay, so we've gone over the strengths. Let's go over what could have been a little stronger. I mean, what were some of the weaknesses, maybe, or some of the areas that could have been improved in this story? So I'll start. I thought there was, as I already said, some characters that didn't really get developed the way they could, and I realized that we want to leave some of these characters to develop in the next book, and I really hope you're planning on doing that with a couple of characters, particularly Smith and Wesson and Annabelle, the security spider. And I had a lot of trouble with Smith and Wesson. Even in this book, I felt they should have been differentiated a little more, even if we don't get into the story, because I just had trouble separating and keeping them apart. I mean, I think it was like 2/3 through the book when I realized that was it one doesn't speak, in fact, through the entire book, and that was kind of lost on me if that's the case.
Yeah, one never said a word. One never.
Yeah.
Now the other character that I want to see developed is Annabelle, our little security bug. She's exactly what she should be for this story. If you made her as out there and spectacular as Hercule, it'd be, I think, competing, and it would undermine Hercule. So I think she's exactly what she needs to be for this story. However, in the next story, I'm hoping that you're going to make her as famous as Hercule. I mean, maybe Annabelle will mean something. I don't know what if it does, great. I can't wait to find out. But if it doesn't, I'd like you to consider giving her a name, a more famous name, and like the one that came to mind was Charlotte. And it's like Hercule or somebody can tell Winki about, yeah, her real name is Charlotte, but don't call her that. Don't call her that. She doesn't like to be called that. And because yeah, just as for the reason to why, you just say, well, let's just say what happens to pigs in children's story isn't the same thing as what happens to pigs in real life. And, kind of like give a wink and a nod in that direction, like the same way you do with Hercule.
Charlotte's kind of copyrighted there, Jennifer.
Yeah, true. But if she's going to fight the Hercule battle, Jason, she might as well fight the Charlotte's battle too. Anyway, I think you could do something clever. So that pretty much covers character. Now, as far as plot goes, I really liked the pacing. I liked the ride. I was enjoying myself. I wanted to get to the end. I wanted to see what was going on. I wanted to go find out what all the mysteries were. The mystery around the healer, the mystery around Mr. Marble, who the traitor was, all that stuff. But by the time we got there, it all seemed too easy. It was really rushed. It all happened on top of itself. The information we got from the traitor, I wasn't happy with how it was delivered. I wanted more of a face-to-face confrontation, not for it to be, handed to them like it was. It just seemed so easy. Like it was time. Oh, I'm near the end of the book. Time to put it in a box, wrap it up on a bow, and get it out there. So I want more time with the traitor. I want a better answer. I want a more developed answer.
Can I say something about what you said? Is that correct? I think wanting to know a little bit more about the traitor that can be something that can be explained later because the diary is still floating around and the traitor, spoiler, is still out there. So I just assumed we are being left dangling to learn some more about that.
That would be a fair assumption, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that's good because I'm looking forward to that. I know Jax has several books planned in the series, and I certainly kind of expect to see a lot more developed on all the characters, in fact. But it's just that by the time I reached the end, I'd been so interested. Everything was lined up. I was waiting to get here, and it was over before it started. I mean, we had boom, boom, boom. We had the marble reveal, the frost reveal, and the traitor reveal, and it was all over before it started, practically. I really just felt a little, bum's rush through the story. We've reached the end, time to move on.
You just wanted a little slower there.
Exactly. So, but that said, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to it. It might be a brilliant strategy because now I really want to pick up the next book, but pretty much that's what I have to say. So let's move on to the next person.
The biggest thing that I felt, it's similar to what Jennifer had to say, and I agree. I felt like the ending kind of was like dominoes, was like boom, 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 and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, I did kind of feel as if it all came off so quickly that I didn't really have time to catch my breath and to appreciate the full ramifications of certain reveals. I had to think about it afterwards and go, oh, okay, no, I see where she was going, and so I agree with Jennifer on that. I'd like to see more of Jeeves. I felt that Jeeves, he was always around, but he was seldom in the spotlight, and for a character who kind of borrows a lot of his mannerisms and his name from a well-established tradition, I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more individuality to the character, kind of get a sense of what was lurking below the prim and proper exterior. Not that I didn't like the prim and proper; it was cool, but I'd like to get. You don't really get that sense into the end that there's really more of like a heart beating underneath of that exterior. So that just a wish, not really a critique. And we can see more of that going forward. My biggest thing I felt was that I wanted to see more payoff in terms of the big confrontations in the story. That's especially true of Malador. Malador had an excellent setup in the middle of the story. As we progressed beyond the first confrontation, I felt that you really did a great job of working him as a player, so to speak, as a manipulator, and that fit in very well with the character. But my biggest problem was that the first time we're introduced to him, he and his forces are dispatched relatively quickly, relatively conclusively, and the second time we encounter him in a big confrontation of that sort, I felt a little bit disappointed in how quickly, once the advantage was turned on him, it felt like he didn't really have anything else up his sleeve, and so that kind of diminished his threat for me a little bit, especially after you'd done such a great job of building him up as a manipulator. I was kind of like, oh, I wish I'd seen a little bit more.
Okay.
By the same token, can I say that Annabelle runs an extremely efficient security service? That once the traitor reveal happened, it kind of seemed like the traitor was run down in no uncertain terms within about 10 seconds. It's like security splatters. We're done. Don't even try.
I want everybody to go, ew.
Are you sure this isn't Shelub and not Annabelle that we're talking about here? That was like wham. But that was my biggest problem. I wanted to see your main threats be more of a threat in the story, and I felt like it could have been sharpened up a little bit. Excellent characterization on him, though.
Okay.
What I felt could have been stronger is I wanted maybe a little more atmosphere and a sense of setting in the places. I guess I mentioned that earlier with the New Orleans stuff because it's a very picturesque city. I wanted a little more of the alien species because sometimes at the tournament things went pretty quickly and I didn't get a really good description of some of those alien creatures. And the strengths, I think I liked this concept of the healer guys as being an oppressed species or an oppressed subculture group. And there was also a good balance of tournament action and behind the scenes stuff and not a lot of info dumps. That was handled really well. And it kept a consistent tone overall.
I have a question for you, Jax. One of the things I remember early on that I thought was a little weak was the whole thing with Jeeves and what we're going to learn about Jeeves. For instance, I remember thinking, I remember being surprised when I found out what his talents were, and I have the feeling you thought that they were well represented and well shown, and it took me a while to figure it out. I think we commented later that we want to see that early on, and particularly I also want to see the mystery that's surrounding Jeeves better foreshadowed. I remember we talked about that. I wasn't quite happy with it. It made one of the reveals at the end seem a little prangish to me. And I want to know, did you wind up going back and doing something like that? Because I think you said you did.
Yeah, I did a bunch of rework based on the 17 chapters, you guys had recommended. So, all of your comments, if you get a chance to read reread it, you will see that a lot of what you had, suggested had been reflected in what the final manuscript turned out to be.
And did I read the final version then?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, maybe that's why I'm kind of sitting here going, I'm not having the feelings that everybody else is having.
That's a really good point. Well, that's good because that means that they did the right job.
Well, I felt maybe less spiders.
For more cockroaches.
Looking up and having a ceiling full of spiders in particular nearly gave me nightmares. Yeah, I'd like to see Winki actually fail more in her test with Smith and Wesson. To have a really good day and she goes in the next day feeling pumped up and just to get completely blindsided and find herself repeatedly leaving dents in the walls. It was like she found her power and then everything kind of came to her instantly and easily.
Good point.
Which I know you can't adjust that in this book, but you mentioned that she gets more powers, that they grow more powers the longer they are around, so I'd like to see maybe more difficulties with future powers.
Yeah, I can, having written the first half of the second book, I can tell you that in fact, she has troubles. So it doesn't all just come really easy.
I think what I'll do is, I read it first, the way I would normally read anything. And then this morning I went back and skimmed it because I wanted to kind of brush up. And on that first reading, there was only one thing that at the end of it, because Jennifer had asked, like, what's a weakness, that I thought, maybe this is a little bit of a weakness. And it's a PC weakness, so it's like not a real weakness. It's that, and I can't talk about it without talking about it. You know what I'm saying here? Am I like vibing to you the problem with the traitor in context?
Oh, it's a PC weakness?
It's a PC weakness.
Oh,
and
you know what?
there's only one other person in the book, and I think you only say once.
Yes.
Okay? And if you said more often something about Jones, I wouldn't have reacted the way I did. PC. Okay? You only once, when you first introduced him and you called him A. Jones, did you identify. And then later on, it was Tony, and there was no mention. And yet, That's it. Okay. But otherwise, no. But then when I went back to reread it again, because I thought, okay, I
So
tried
just so you know, Carolyn, I want to tell you really quick so that everybody understands what we're talking about. Initially, it was A. Johnson, and I got such a flack about that.
I could see why you would.
I changed his name to Jones. Yes. So.
That was probably smart. Okay, so before I tried to read it again, I thought I'm going to tell myself, not tried to read it again, I'm going to try to tell myself what happened and who did what, and that's what I couldn't do.
Right.
But that's usually my failing in most books. You know, mystery novels, I kind of go along, whatever people are telling me, and then they do the reveal, and I remember it, and then I just sort of forget it. Yeah. So, but when I went back this time, I thought, is it because I'm a crappy reader about this kind of thing, or isn't it there? And it's there. It's all there. Because as I went through and I said, here's my question. Oh, she's answering it. Here's my question. Oh, she's answering it. Here's my question. Oh, she's answering it. So I didn't come away feeling like you hadn't answered these things. I came away feeling like I was so busy paying attention to relationships and emotions and setting that I don't always put the pieces together and hold them together. But you did explain why, and you gave people's motives for what was happening and what had happened. So I think
I remember, this is actually one of the really interesting things about Writers Group. I'm going to give you just an example. I remember when everybody first saw Colonel Mustard, and it was all on a flashback. That's really the first time they see it. And he has this attitude. His line is even to the victor goes the spoils, where he takes a body away. And all of you were like up in arms about, he's a good guy, how can he do that? And it's not until the very end that you go, okay, well, maybe.
That's why. And the answers aren't all at the ending. I mean, they are sprinkled throughout the thing. You know, and you're sort of saying everything's a rush. I do think that last bit with the traitor does seem a bit rushed, but I don't know I would want that on screen anyhow.
Yeah.
But everything else sort of came at nice paces. You know, I had this question, I hung on to the question, and it wasn't answered necessarily right away, but it was answered, and long enough for me to remember I had the question. So.
All right, good. Can I ask a question really quick? Was the whodunit a surprise? Show of hands.
Okay, yeah, I was surprised also by the reveals at the end. You know, maybe I didn't really pay attention to the minor characters, so when what turned out to be the traitor kind of caught me by surprise, yeah. But then when I thought about it, it's like, yeah, it all made sense once it all fit into place, so it didn't just spring up.
Yeah, I was actually completely blindsided by whodunit. I had no clue. In fact, I was a little disappointed. I was like, no! But the other one, the other reveals, Jeeves I already mentioned. He was, you said you've already fixed that, because that reveal I wasn't on board with, thinking that it was well enough set up. But glad to hear you took care of that one, because I really, really like that one. But the marble reveal, oddly enough, no, that didn't blindside me. It kind of made sense to me. By the time we got there, I kind of figured it out.
Yeah. Was that the same surprise?
No.
Okay.
And also the thing that was revealed about Frost was surprising to me. I never saw that coming, but then when it happened, I was very pleased, and I want to see more of that thread carried on in the next book.
Yeah, I really agree with that too. I really want to see more of that character, because what you did with him at the end of the scene, it was just great. Well done.
The before midnight scene? Yeah. And in a way, the ending of the book is really her finding a family, you know, putting that as the last impact. That, for me, that's the climax of the book, not the stuff with the traitor. So, again, I don't really mind that we blew through the traitor really fast because Jack spent good quality time on that before the midnight scene, you know, and that's where the book ended for me.
Okay, I think we wrapped that question up pretty well, so let's move on to the next one. Okay, yeah. So I was talking with Jax a little earlier. Sometimes an important marketing tool can be a short story you can put on your website. It'll give people something to read and get them hooked and kind of whet their appetite for more of the novel. So what I wanted to ask everyone here is, if Jax were going to write this short story, who do you want to see a short story from? What point of view should she consider writing short stories from? Or for that matter, what point of view might you like to see in books down the road? So let's go to Laura first this time.
For me, a short story would have to be something I was hoping was going to be in the book. I would like to see a flashback. I think it would be a long way back from Hercule's point of view, in the same kind of manner as something that happened to the healer. But I'd like to see her find that suddenly her family isn't strong enough to protect her.
So far, everyone's going to be happy with the next book.
Okay, so short story, who would I like to see expanded? That's easy. Super Lich. I don't know if that was the right name for him, but you know, the ultimate Lich from the tournament, who was like, you know, like nobody.
You want to see a short story?
Nobody could defeat Super Lich. I was like, yeah, that's what I want to see more of Super Lich. Because, like, I mean, come on. I mean, it's such a fascinating idea. This character that shows up at the tournament every year, butchers everybody, and then doesn't go for the crown because, like, I don't need that stupid crown. I'm Super Lich. Yeah, I was going to say, actually, I'd like to see more of Super Lich in the next book. Because
you too will be happy with the next book. So far, I'm like, all right.
Can I just say, on the whole Lobster Man Lich thing, like, I mean, I was behind that. You know, like, I mean, I was like, I want to go to Lich World and I want to see where these lobster men live and stuff, and I want to see, like, Super Lich kind of, like, ruling as, you know, like the biggest badass of the world, and I don't know. I like that whole concept. I like the goblins a lot, so if you wanted to do more with the goblin subculture, I'd be behind that too. House Magnolia really fascinated me. I mean, from the very beginning, when you had the concept of this House of Light that could actually be as ruthless and as cunning as you might anticipate the Dark House to be, I was like, okay, that's cool, and I would like to see more. And the Southern charm and Magnolia and everything kind of like is like this fancy covering over something which is actually a lot more complicated and potentially morally unsettling, because they're supposed to be the light guys, right. And everything. So more of an exploration of House Magnolia, of the new relationships you've established. We need to see sort of deeper into the characters and what they're all about. And yeah, like, those were some of the things that really bit me about it. Also, like, I mean, the whole mystery behind Will and all the messages that he has sprinkled throughout. I don't know if that's a spoiler, pardon me for saying. I won't go into what's actually in the messages, but all the message he sprinkled, he's kind of left this foreboding that, yeah, you know, there's a lot more that I got to tell you, and, you know, that is incentive for me to want to go forward. What more has he seen about the future? Has he intuited? And can I also say that the whole dark story that eventually revolved around Will was one of my more favorite twists in the story. So if we can kind of see more of those powers of darkness that kind of really creep me out, that would be cool as well.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to agree with Jason that I liked Super Lich a lot. That was a very creative creature, and I wanted to see more of that. Or for a short story, maybe more of Malador and his sister. And I was also intrigued with the healer guys, and so something about their backstory or the world where they came from and all of their problems. That would be interesting.
Oh yeah.
My idea for a short story might be a little different. I'm not really sure how you would do this, but I'd be very interested to see what would come of it if you tried, because you've got one character in the story that has quite a history. I mean, it's 100, 200 years old, and that would be Gateway Manor. I'd really like to see a short story from the perspective of the manor house.
Yes.
Thank you, Carolyn. My second choice for a point of view character for a short story would be my favorite character, everyone's favorite bug, Hercule Poirot. I don't see how you could possibly go wrong with having him as point of view character.
Okay.
And as far as what I want to see from in the next book, as far as point of view characters, I really want to pursue the traitor storyline. So I'd really like to get point of view from the traitor, really get inside the head of the traitor, and enjoy that and flesh it out. As I've already mentioned several lighter characters that I would hope would get some airtime and get developed. And this one, I know Jax knows this. I'm really, really hoping for a running gag with A. Johnson. I know A. Johnson's been renamed, but I'm hoping she'll recycle that name and use it. I mean, the naming structure of this is just so wonderful that I want to see you embrace it and go with it and just make this poor put upon character that every time someone comes up to him and gives, you mean your name is A. Johnson? And he just gives you the perfect opportunity for a put upon character that just keeps rolling his eyes and with a running gag. So that's what I'm hoping for. I want my Anthony Johnson or whatever A. Johnson name you come up with. And that's pretty much it. So I guess we can go on to the next person. Carolyn?
It's interesting you said the house, because I was thinking short story of the house too, but it would just be an experimental kind of thing. I don't know that it would really work terribly well, but it would be interesting. There was a line, and I read it, I put it on my Kindle, so I can't give you page numbers or anything, but it said something like, this damned house and its damned curse. And I was like, well, what's that curse? And maybe a house short story could explain that, or I'm hoping the next novel will explain what curse meant. I also wanted to hear what Will did that was so bad, that caused him to, is this a spoiler or not, have to have that contract. You know, he wanted that contract for a purpose. So what did he do?
I don't think we have to worry about that too much, Carolyn. The name of the book is Dead Man's Deal, so probably not much of a spoiler that there's a contract in it.
Yeah, I guess, but it didn't say devil. So, anyhow, but then his diary is still floating around too, and the house certainly can show us. Certainly I want to know more about D.S. Frost. I want to see lots of stuff with D.S. Frost. He seems to me potentially a romantic interest for somebody, but that's just because that's one of my buttons. I like to see nice people hook up with nice people, sometimes with bad people first and then with nice people, but eventually with nice people. I know you're going to tell us why the tree's dying. Yeah, and what's going on with, so. And then I spent a little time thinking about the mirror. I certainly do want to, have something happen with that gallery of mirror-trapped bad people, okay? But I'm sort of wondering about the possibilities this holds open for Will, and I don't think I want him back. And I'm not saying that because he's a bad person. I do like people who, or a good person. I like people who are kind of morally ambiguous and messed up. I have liked his voice and what I've seen of him in the things the house has shown us. But I feel like I want her to move forward. And I don't know. You could certainly handle it, and he would be somebody I'm very happy to see come back. But I kind of think right now I don't want that to be the end of where we're going with it.
Okay.
Can I just say something in response? I kind of felt because of the whole way that Will had, how shall we say, invested in another alternative to what was originally proposed by the powers of darkness. I thought that left a door open perhaps for future stories. And can I say journey into the center of the painting?
Yeah.
Might be an interesting concept. We don't necessarily have to see Will reinvested in the main story, but we could possibly see somebody find out more about what Will's existence is like.
Yeah.
Now, which might be an interesting angle to take.
Right. I have a really quick question. Having does anyone know what the very last riddle means?
No, I don't know yet. Except that it sounded like something that somebody else had said earlier. Okay, and then I thought, I'm not going to think about it.
I think Carolyn raises a good point here, which she's looking for clues in the manuscript and all that. I didn't have any idea really what the next question would be. Are there hints as to what it's supposed to be? Have you sown foreshadowing as to what the next clue that Will gives Winki is?
No, I don't believe so. I believe it's out of the blue, but I just wanted to know if it was something obvious to you guys.
No.
Okay.
I mean, the fact that she sort of mentioned 3 things and then there was a 4th, I tried to map it on stuff that certain characters had happened to them, and it wouldn't fit. So I thought, okay, but it still sounds like something somebody said.
I'm going to ask the opposite question of what was asked. If we could figure out the riddle, will we have cracked the secret code that will let us know what's happening in the next book?
No.
So as long as we're on the subject of the next book, is it written yet, Jax? I mean, what's the deal? What's the deal with Dead Man's Deal 2?
So if it were totally done right now, Deb had told me that they would at least stay it for 8 months. So seeing how things go and how much time I get, because I actually left it upstairs. I finally drew my outline, so I know what is in the book now. I have it all. It's just a matter of core dumping it out. So I'm hoping it'll be about a year later. So I'm thinking maybe August of next year as well. Let's see.
So a very important question for authors to know is, who is the audience? So what I want to ask now is, who do you guys see as reading this? I mean, what books is this similar to? What authors does Jax write like? And who would you recommend this book to read?
Well, I mentioned Kim Harrison because I really think she's got that humor. She's got that, contemporary fantasy thing going. She's got the feeling of fantasy. She's got creatures that they're not just one set of creatures, just like you've got all these different kinds of goblins and etc. I think someone but there's a little more romance in her stuff. But I think someone who reads Kim Harrison and loves it the way I do would absolutely enjoy your book, Jax.
Cool. All right.
Jax already knows my answer to this, but I'll share with the rest of you. So the writing that comes to mind when I read Jax is Jim Butcher's Dresden books. Jax's is a little lighter weight, a little more lighthearted, but they have the same kind of, they have the same first-person narrative and the same kind of connection to the narrator. The narrator is kind of slightly self-deprecating, has good humor. Like I say, I think Jax is a little lighter weight, but then again, Dresden's got, 14, 15 books in this series, and Jack's just getting started.
Yeah, 23. I think his goal was to write 23 of these things, ultimately.
That's a lot of books, I guess. So my recommendation for audience comes down to this. It's kind of like, if you're waiting for the next Jim Butcher book to come out, pick up Jax's book and enjoy the read while you wait.
This was kind of a tough question for me because I don't read a lot of books in this genre. But I would say it has a very lighthearted and witty tone, kind of like Lemony Snicket's Series of Unfortunate Events. And I don't think it's exactly YA, but it could fit into that audience. What I did was I went on Amazon and got recommended with a few other things. There was a book by Erin Morgenstern that kind of sounded similar. It was like, a normal people discovered a carnival somewhere and strange things happened. So I think it's that sort of genre.
Really good recommendation.
I'm kind of in Denise's boat. I haven't done a lot of reading in that part of the genre to make it an easy comparison. for me, but honestly, the only thing that really springs to mind that when I think of your book and I think of its trajectory and I think of the whimsical nature of it, that really pops to mind is Alice in Wonderland.
Really?
To be honest, it's the only thing that really I go like, this is an Alice in Wonderland story. This is somebody who starts off in a very mundane, kind of, in a way, dreadful existence, and suddenly finds herself swept up in alternate realms and spiders that talk, and and food that has wondrous healing properties, and so forth, and so I think that it does share some of that same whimsy that Alice in Wonderland had. I'm kind of hoping that you can maybe pick up on some of the interest from the Harry Potter series. I know it's not an easy crossover, but I think that you could potentially interest some of the same sorts of people in it, because it does have that sort of magical wonder about it. It's not invested in the same kind of dark magic yet that eventually the Potter series gets into, but I think that you're starting to head down that road. So I think that you could tap into that audience, and just in a general way, I would recommend this to somebody who's a child at heart, has a twisted imagination and a good sense of humor, and just enjoys a good read.
It's a great recommendation.
I don't read many mainstream authors. The author that comes to mind most for me is Holly Lyle. She is a fantastic fantasy author. But I would say out of big authors, I would consider Ewan Culver, who writes the Artemis Fowl series. And in a strange way, Jeff Lindsay, who writes Dexter. You have a very, very similar point of view. The characters talk very similarly, although he occasionally slices somebody up on screen, as it was. So you might want to avoid the YA section for that.
I liken it very much to the Dresden and also Kevin Hearn, who does the Iron Druid series. That I don't know that those are necessarily young adults. They're certainly not exclusionary. I mean, it doesn't, young adults.
Yeah, it's actually, YA is split into two categories now, young adult and new adult. Because of some of the books. And new adult is ranged from about 18 to 25.
That's a good one.
I would say maybe you fit more in that category.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it, guys. I'm out of questions. I think it went really well. I'm very impressed at our first video blog. And I just wanted to end up with asking Jax how she thought it went. And when is Dead Man's Deal due out?
The current launch date is August 12th, 2014. Wow. Woohoo! I'm I'm very happy with how this has gone. I'm very glad that it was, I know how you guys critique, so I know that when you say good things, it just means huge volumes to me. So I have just enjoyed writing this book, and I think that people will enjoy reading it. I'm hoping this goes forward and it's all very successful, and you guys don't get bored with it.
No pressure for book 2.
That's right. No pressure for book 2.
So I want to thank you, viewers, for coming and seeing our first blog, and also for giving me a little leeway with the little awkwardness of patching it back together. I recommend that you get Jax's book when it comes out in August. I know it'll be available on Amazon. I guarantee she's a much better writer than I am a video technician. So we hope we'll see you back for other blogs in the future. Thank you.